Welcome to a small concern that I have about the way we understand and practice politics. I feel deeply troubled and disappointed when politics is defined as the art of the possible, which means that whatever works is all right. Never mind how ethically right it is, never mind how much injustice the pursuit of a particular course of action is likely to create. Never mind what long-term harm it invites. Does it help you in the immediate context to push your benefit or maximize your profit? Just go and do it. As an advertisement says, I think the advertisement of Nike sports equipment, Nike shoes in particular, the advertisement is just do it. In a way that captures the outlook of the modern man who is nurtured in pragmatism, whose aims are guided or whose responses are guided by the spirit of immediacy as against acting in terms of long-term wisdom. So there are two completely contrary approaches to life. In olden days, when people were not as smart as we are, but they were deeper in their personality, and they had time not only to act but also to contemplate the meaning of what they do, the meaning of life, and the larger rhythms of life. And they therefore attained insights of great depth into the enduring realities of life, philosophers of the past. Now, as Nietzsche and Bertrand Russell said, the modern age is not a philosophical age. This age cannot produce genuine philosophers because this is the age of pragmatism. This is the age of the art of the possible. This is the age of shallowness. As one of the controversial authors about the modern culture, the decline of the West. Right now the name of the author doesn't come to my mind. The decline of the West, it's in 2 volumes. He says, modern culture is a culture that has specialized in the art of managing, mastering and manipulating the surface of life. The surface of life. The author of this book is Oswald Spengler. Spengler. Oswald Spengler, The Decline of the West. He says, modern man has perfected the art of managing the surface of the things, and therefore he has become afraid of the depth. He says he is in a state of flight from the depth of life. I think that's a statement worth thinking about, and particularly in relation to our own attitude to life, our own orientations, our own training, and how we really view our situation in general, our life strategies. So, in this light, perhaps the best thing we can do is to look at how politics is practiced. Now, I'm someone who believes in the incomparable importance of politics, and politics impacts and influences our life, even the minutest aspects of life, and it's therefore foolish to discount its influence or to think that one can live protected from the malicious and malignant practice of politics. Now, politics as it is practiced today is the art of expediency, art of the possible, which therefore excludes the inconvenience of having to limit or guide one's actions in terms of not only what is good or what seems good in the present, but also what is good in the larger context, in relation to, say, the society as a whole, and in the case of great thinkers, of humanity as a whole. In this context, I am reminded of India's the first Nobel laureate of India, Gurudev Tagore. He was awarded the Nobel Prize for his collection of poems titled Gitanjali, And if my memory serves me right, it happened in 1913. I don't want to be dogmatic about it, you can check, but he was our first Nobel laureate. So he said, and you can find this in a very tiny volume titled Nationalism, which is a collection of 5 talks that Gurudev Tagore delivered in different countries. So the general theme is nationalism. And in one of those talks he said that if he has to choose between patriotism and love of humanity, without having to think even for a moment, he would choose love of humanity than patriotism. He says, I love my country, but I'll never accept any conflict, a necessary conflict between loving my country and loving humanity as a whole. I think that's a beautiful stand to take, and that's my own position, which today would seem anti-national, and that of course is a measure of the extent to which we have moved away from the foundations of wisdom on which political practices were established a long time ago. By the way, in the Athenian context, the Greek context, politics was defined as the art of living harmoniously together in a city, for city-states. Greece comprised many city-states. So it's the art of living harmoniously together in the city, maximizing the development of every citizen so as to empower him to serve the society to his utmost. That is actually my guiding light in thinking of politics and in judging political strategies, political goals, political agendas as they are unfolded from day to day in our times. Now look at the Indian context. We have very gleefully accepted the idea of post-truth politics. Politics that is divorced from any commitment to truth. And therefore what happens? Having accepted that, we feel aggrieved when a very sort of dominant, even matchless politician, in his eagerness to secure victories in various states or various phases of the current national election, which will conclude on the 1st of June, he has absolutely no hesitation, no qualms in dishing out what is false, untrue to his listeners, being assured that his listeners, being poor and unable therefore to verify the truth of what he's saying, to find out whether the allegations he's making about his political opponents are really true or they are deliberate distortions of truth so as to work up their emotional state in his favor. So they would choose or exercise their right to franchise in an emotional or emotive manner, unmindful of the realities of their day-to-day life. So the idea is secure triumph by hook or crook. And that seems to be a smart thing to do. So in this context, I want to share a few words from the great Greco-Roman, more Roman than Athenian, and a philosopher, Cicero. Marcus Tullius Cicero is his full name. And what does he say about how we should act? And I'll read those few words and then, if necessary, offer one or two brief explanations. Let me read from Cicero. What is morally wrong can never be advantageous. Now, this is contrary to what we believe today. So, Cicero, listen to Cicero. What is morally wrong can never be advantageous. even when it enables you to make some gain that you believe to be your advantage. These words are so relevant to us. They connect directly to the prevailing situation. The beauty of having such statements is that they enable us to see the situation in which we are and the realities that we confront in a particular context, so that we understand what's unfolding from day to day in an adequate light. And that's why I remind you of these words. Of course, there are a lot many things to be reminded of and to be shared in our midst, and we shall do so by and by. So I'll read from the beginning once again so that it's clear to all of us. What is morally wrong can never be advantageous, even when it enables you to make some gain that you believe to be your advantage. Then he goes on to say, the mere act of believing that some wrongful course of action constitutes an advantage is pernicious. The mere act of believing, you don't even have to do it. He says the mere act of believing that a wrongful course of action will secure some advantage for you is pernicious, absolutely malignant, pernicious. But we don't realize it, and the people who do that also don't realize it. They don't realize that each time they bank on falsehood in order to gain some immediate electoral gains, their credibility and their stature are taking a hit, a palpable hit. They're actually squandering the respect and the reverence they earned till then. They're actually destroying themselves gradually. And this is a very sad spectacle, and I wish this does not happen to anyone. But I have to say that this is what is happening at the present time, whether it be in politics or in religion or in any other domain of life like culture. People simply regard what is immediately advantageous and are therefore willing to resort to any means imaginable, any means that will work for them, completely unmindful of the ethical consequences and the harmful or pernicious consequences for the society and those immediately around. This is a very, very major problem, and we must attach to this problem the seriousness that it truly deserves. And I wish this idea could be broadcast throughout the country so that the citizens of India would have some perspective, some framework, some matrix within which what is being done today in public view, it's being broadcast, it is being dumped on people, millions of people, 1.4 billion people. And the pernicious nature of this is not understood. And the media never talks about it because of what has happened to the media, about which I don't want to say anything. So here, in order to understand the pernicious nature of this attitude to life or this strategy, this life strategy, let me also make a reference to another great thinker from the French context. His name again is very familiar to all of you, Rousseau. Rousseau, in his book Emile, E-I-E-M-I-L-E, which you can, I make these references so that you can download these books and read. You don't have to spend a single rupee. They're available to you absolutely free. He makes a very interesting point, which actually influenced the thinking of quite a few European intellectual giants, including Immanuel Kant. So it's very important. He says, when you confront a situation and you have to make a choice, how do you do this? There are two ways of doing this. One is to look at the situation and manage the situation with a reference or with an eye only to your personal advantage. What works for you, what's good for you, and what will maximize your benefit. And in this process, you are completely unmindful of the consequences for others, including the society, your country, and humanity, of course. He says a second option is that when you handle that situation, you do so not only with an eye to what is good for you, but also with an eye to what's good for the society at large and humanity beyond. And therefore, if you have that kind of broad perspective which breeds wisdom, then you will handle the given situation in a different manner. And that way of dealing with your life situations one after the other, and if you maintain this strategy or this way of looking at situations, dealing with situations and managing them, then you will enrich your personality, and your enriched personality will be a source of enrichment for others. Or to put it in religious words, you will become a blessing in the life of others. And let me make a final reference. In the 12th chapter of the book of Genesis, you have the story of Abram, Abram, being called by God. He was living in a very, very insignificant place, Ur, U-R, and he belonged to a very insignificant community there, the Hapiru community, H-A-P-I-R-U. It's from this word Hapiru that the word Hebrew was evolved. Hapiru became Hebrew. And historians say that the Hapirus were a criminal tribe. In India also, certain tribes are labeled as criminal tribes. It's very unfortunate. So Abram was called out of this tribe. And then he is given a vision. And you can read that vision in the first 2 words of the 12th chapter of the book of Genesis. And I'm not going to deal with all of it. I'm just going to sort of select a particular phrase which is directly connected to the theme I'm trying to develop through this video. Adam is asked to go, I'm so very sorry, please forgive me. Abram is asked to go to a land he had never seen before. And if he would do that, what will happen? All sorts of blessings are detailed there, but what I want to highlight is this: you will become a blessing on the land. It's so beautiful. It's so when I first read this part of this feeling, or this part of the verse of the promise, I literally jumped up from my bed. Imagine becoming a blessing on the land. Oh, that's a kind of vision, that the spiritual vision that the Bible has concerning human personality. Imagine each one of us becoming a blessing on the land, rather than remaining parasites on the land. Let me conclude by expressing my heart sorrow about my community, the Christian community, and minority communities in general. I mean, all of you know that I've done a fair amount of work in this field. I've represented the 5 notified minorities at the national level as a member of the National Commission for Minority Educational Institutions. And I have been able to make, by God's grace, significant interventions on behalf of minority communities to protect their constitutional rights and privileges. But that's by the way. Now, the problem that I want to highlight here is that, to the best of my knowledge, and in light of all the circumstantial evidence and the data that I have examined, I have to say this with a very heavy heart, that the religious minorities in this country are entertaining, are harboring a parasitical attitude to the country. A parasitical attitude to the country. We are only mindful of what we can get from the country, and not what we need to contribute to the country. And in particular, the duty to develop a national outlook, a national consciousness. But we invent a poor substitute for it, and that is by playing some kind of political game with political parties, cultivating their patronage, seeking their protection, and living again as parasites on these political parties as well. This, in my opinion, degrades us. It's a pernicious way of dealing with our situation, and no parasite is entitled to any dignity. You can't be a parasite on the land and at the same time be a blessing on the land. Now, of course, there will be reaction to my video saying, no, Christians have made great contributions to the country, the missionaries did that. Of course, they did all that. Who says they have not done it? They have done tremendous work. But What are we doing? I'm talking about our present outlook. Who among Christians, who among Muslims, who among the other minorities like Parsis, Sikhs, etc., have, or how many people, there may be one or two here and there, how many among us have this national vision and the motivation to contribute to the national cause? And of course, the more religious minority communities are alienated from the national mainstream through political gestures, political posturing, etc., as unfortunately the Modi, Amit Shah-led central government is doing. Very unfortunately, they're aggravating alienation in this country. And I have to say that. That is the truth. In the pursuit of their political agenda, they are actually infecting this country, the national consciousness, with the virus of alienation. Now, all that's fine, but let me project a particular example. All of you know I was associated with St. Stephen's College for about 45 years. 2 years as a student and 45 years as a faculty member, finally its principal. In the glorious heritage of St. Stephen's College, there is an individual who shines like a star, and his name is Charles Freer Andrews. He was a first-class first student from Cambridge, and he came from a fairly aristocratic background. He could have had a fabulous life as an academic in Cambridge, in England, at that time at the zenith of the Raj, etc. Instead, he chose to teach in St. Stephen's College. He joined St. Stephen's College in 1904, taught there for 10 years. But gradually, he realized that if an institution is to be great, and I repeat, if an institution is to be great, it needs to develop a national consciousness. At that time, freedom movement was peaking gradually. Gandhi was coming into prominence, and C.F. Andrews got connected to Mahatma Gandhi, and he became one of his closest confidants. And Gandhi said Charles Freer Andrews, CFA, does not mean Charles Freer Andrews, but Christ's favorite apostle. Gandhi respected, loved, cherished C.F. Andrews as an apostle to India, Now, we take pride in saying that Apostle Thomas was sent to India as an apostle to India. But those who claim to be the inheritors of the tradition of St. Thomas do not regard themselves as under a duty to develop and expand this national consciousness. We live to ourselves. And this is not something that I alone, as I am saying. I'm reminded in this context of the late Metropolitan Philippos Mar Chrysostom Tirumeni, who once in the great Maraman convention, at the concluding meeting which I was addressing, immediately before my sermon, he gave a short address wherein he raised a question. What will happen to Kerala if the whole of Marthoma Church disappears today? What will happen to India? What will happen to the world if the Marthoma Church ceases to exist? It simply evaporates into thin air. Will anyone miss Marthoma Church? There was deafening silence for a whole minute. Then he said, no one will miss the Marthoma Church. We are not relevant. Very few church leaders will have the kind of guts that Chrysostom Tirumeni exemplified. The duty to tell the truth. And he could afford to tell the truth because he was the supreme head of the church. In his place, if an ordinary priest had said this, he would have been defrocked. He would have been driven out with might and main. So anyway, my only submission to you, and let me close this video by reading the words of Cicero once again so that we are able to remember it and cherish it in our hearts. What is morally wrong I wish Sri Narendra Modi would heed the words of Cicero. What is morally wrong can never be advantageous. I wish also that the ministers in the cabinet of UPA 2, not UPA 1, UPA 1 was very good, UPA 2, the ministers of UPA 2 had heeded Cicero's words. And if they had, they would not have been in the present pickle that they are. So let's listen to Cicero. What is morally wrong can never be advantageous. You can never gain anything of enduring value by doing anything that's morally wrong. So what is morally wrong is wrong. No good can come out of it. What is morally wrong can never be advantageous, even when it enables you to make some gain that you believe to be your advantage. The mere act of believing that some wrongful course of action constitutes an advantage is pernicious. I'm amazed at the cutting relevance of these words to the context in which we are. And I commend these words to you for your continued reflection. These wise sayings provide us the perspective that we need to understand what is afoot today. So together, let's say thank you to Cicero. Marcus Tullius Cicero, we thank you for this amazing insight. Thank you.